Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. My name is Suzanne Short, and I am pleased and privileged to serve this community on its Board of Trustees. I am a second-generation Unitarian Universalist and the proud parent of a third generation. I hope this gathering, together yet apart, nourishes your spirit and helps sustain you and your loved ones during this and all challenging times. If you are a visitor here today, our congregation welcomes you, and we are so glad that you are here. We hope you will take the time to introduce yourself and let us know where you're from in the chat feature on Zoom. Our church was begun in 1833 as a liberal Christian community. We are now a community of many faith journeys and beliefs, guided not by a creed, but by a covenant to uphold shared principles marked by love, respect, and justice. Our faith community continues to work together to put our UU principles and values into action to build beloved community and serve the purpose of justice for all here in the Richmond community. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism and would like to learn more about our community and our faith, we invite you to check out our website, join our Facebook group, and reach out to us by email to membership@richmonduu.org. I hope you will also consider stopping by our virtual coffee hour that starts about 5 minutes after the end of the service through a separate Zoom link available in Saturday's email and on our Facebook site. Coffee hour provides a time for us to connect with fellow church members, and if you are new to First UU, a chance for us to get to know you a little bit better. I would also encourage church members and visitors to tune in on Sunday mornings 5 to 10 minutes early in order to catch the rolling announcements. This is a good way to learn about what is going on in our community and in our church. Again, welcome to this joyful Sunday, made sacred by us being together, worshiping, and sharing our time with each other.
Our challenge lighting words this morning are from Katie Gefflin. In this season of Thanksgiving, we light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this beloved community, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crops with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connection, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this sacred time together that sustains us.
Is the table where rich people sit, by Bird Baylor. If you could see us sitting here at our old scratched-up homemade kitchen table, you'd know we aren't rich. But my father's trying to tell us we are. Doesn't he notice my worn-out shoes, or that my little brother has patches on the pants he wears? Why does he think that old trap truck is parked out by our front door? You can't fool me, I say we're poor. Would rich people sit at a table like this? My mother sort of pats the table and she says, well, we're rich and we sit here every day. Sometimes I think I'm the only one in my whole family who's sensible. Maybe I should mention that my parents made this table out of lumber somebody else threw away. They even had a celebration when they finished it. Understand, I like this table fine. All I'm saying is that it didn't come from a furniture store. It doesn't look like a table where rich people would sit. But my mother thinks if all the rulers of the world could get together around a friendly wooden table in somebody's kitchen, they would solve their arguments in half the time. And my father says it wouldn't hurt to have a lot of cookies piled up on a nice plate in the middle of the table where everyone could reach without asking. But tonight it's our kitchen, our argument, our family gathering. And it's our very spicy ginger cookies piled up on my mother's one good blue flowered plate, exactly in the center of the table. And I'm the one that called this meeting. And the subject is money. I say we don't have enough of it. I tell my parents they should both get better jobs so we could buy a lot of new things. I tell them I look worse than anyone else in school. I hate to bring this up, I say, but it would help if you both had a little more ambition. They look surprised. You can see they never think about the things we need. Right here, I might admit that my parents have some strange ideas about working. They think the only jobs worth having are jobs outdoors. They always work together, and their favorite thing is panning gold, piling us into the beat-up truck and heading for the hills, or some back narrow gully where all the roads are just coyote trails. They used to tell us that the truck knew just which roads to take. And after a month or so out there, they always had a little bit of gold to sell. But you can tell it never made them rich. But they say they can't stand to be cooped up indoors. So now, of course, my dad is asking how many people are as lucky as we are. But I've called this meeting and I say, I bet you could make more money working in a building somewhere in town. Remember our number one rule, he says. We have to see the sky. You could look through a window, I say, but they won't even think about it. Do you see what I mean about being the sensible one? Finally, my mother says, all right, mountain girl, we're going to explain how we figure our money. You can be the bookkeeper tonight. And she hands me a pencil and some yellow paper. And by the way, my name's not really Mountain Girl. They call me that because I was born in a cabin on the side of a mountain where they were looking for gold one summertime in Arizona. Anyway, they wanted my first sight to be the mountainside, so they held me up outdoors at sunrise when I was just about 8 minutes old. The truth is, I still like sunrise a lot. No wonder I had to call this meeting about money. Can you believe my father sitting here looking me straight in the eye and saying, but Mountain Girl, I thought you knew how rich we were. And I say we can't get very far in this discussion if you won't even think about the fact that we're poor. I'll prove it to you right now, he says. Let's make a list of all the money we can learn in a year. How much is that, I say. I'll write it down. But he says, not so fast. We have a lot of things to think about before we add them up. What kinds of things? My mother says, we don't just take our pay in cash, you know. We have a special plan, so we get paid in sunsets, too, and in having time to hike around the canyons and look for eagles' nests. But can't you give me one single number to write down on this paper? So we start with $20,000. That's how much my father says it's worth it to him to work outdoors where he can see the sky all day. He says it's worth that much to be where, if he feels like singing, he can sing out loud and nobody hears him. I've just written down $20,000 when my mother says you better make that $30,000 because it's worth at least another 10 to hear coyotes howling in the hills. So I write down $30,000. And then she remembers that they like to see long distances at faraway mountains that change color about 10 times a day. That's worth another $5,000 to me, she says. So I scratch out what I'd written and write $35,000. My father thinks of something else. When a cactus blooms, you should be there to watch it because you might see a color you won't ever see again in your whole life. How much do you think that color is worth? They decide on another $5,000, so I write it down. But I've forgotten how much my father likes to make bird sounds. He can copy any bird. So, of course, he has to add another $10,000 for having both day birds and night birds around us. I cross out what I had written and I write $50,000. Now, my mother says, let's see what our mountain girl is worth to us. I'm beginning to catch on to their kind of thinking, so I suggest I'm worth another $10,000, even though my little brothers begin to laugh. Don't underestimate yourself, my father says. Remember all those good lists you make for us? He's right. I made a list of all the best books each one of us has read, and a list of all the ones we want to read again. I made a list of all the animals each one of us has seen, and the ones we still most want to see out in the wild. Mine is a mountain lion. My father chose a grizzly bear. My mother wants to see a wolf. And my brother can't decide between a dolphin and a whale. They end up deciding I'm worth about $1 million. I say I don't think I am, but I write it down anyway. In fact, it turns out that each one of us is worth $1 million. So we have $4,050,000. Then I realize I want to add $5,000 myself for the pleasure I have wandering in the open countryside alone, free as a lizard. They say that's certainly worth $5,000. So that makes $4,055,000. And my brother says to put down $7 more for all the nights we get to sleep outside under the stars. We all say $7 doesn't seem to be enough, so we talk him into making it $5,000. Now my paper says $4,060,000, and we haven't even started counting actual cash. To tell the truth, the cash part doesn't seem to matter anymore. I suggest it shouldn't even be on a list of our kind of riches. So the meeting is over. The rest of them have gone outside to see the new sliver of moon, but I'm still sitting here at our nice homemade kitchen table, where there's one cookie left on my mother's good blue flowered plate, and I'm writing this book about us. And I kind of pat the table, and I'm glad it's ours. In fact, I think the title of my book is going to be The Table Where Rich People Sit.
It has been a tradition in my family that right before our Thanksgiving dinner, we gather in a circle, holding each other's hands, and as a part of blessing the food, we ask each person to tell us the things for what they're most grateful for. You see, we typically have a large gathering of family and friends, at least 25 people over for dinner. So you can imagine the amount of time that it takes us to give the blessing. And we always have to remind the most verbose person in the circle to keep their remarks short because we want to eat our food before it gets cold. But this year, because of COVID-19, we won't have our traditional Thanksgiving celebration. COVID-19 has disrupted our many traditions, celebration, rites of passages, and cultural norms. And in 2020, many of us have experienced a year of extraordinary loss and suffering. The myriad of our societal ills seem to have been exasperated. And while I can't fully understand the pain of those suffering from COVID-19, I do know folks who have suffered from this devastating effects from this dreadful disease. You see, friends, I have been doing a lot of venting this year, and my dear colleagues here at First UU can attest to that. There has been time that I felt helpless, hopeless. I searched for answers to the theological question, why is there so much injustice in this world? Why is there so much suffering? The reality is that we all face tough times in our lives. And I don't know about you, but it seems to me that this year, 2020, I have experienced some of the most challenging days in my life. And we know that there will be many tough days ahead for all of us in the beloved community. There has always been evil, suffering, sorrow, and hatred in this world, and we know that those things won't stop in 2021. Friends, there have been many times during this year, all that I could do is to lament. Lament or lamentation is a passionate expression of grief. And unlike a complaint, a lament acknowledges our participation in the brokenness of our world. You see, we lament when our hearts are broken. We lament when we feel helpless and hopeless, when we are in trouble, when we see the despair and brokenness in our world. And when we see that despair and brokenness, we cry out in our pain and suffering and ask, why? How can this be? How long must this go on? We feel at a loss and alone. You see, friends, lamenting does not fix the things at this moment. Injustice, evil, losses, and suffering still exist. But lament is a pathway to hope. Hope gives us the resolve and strength to face our world's challenges with fresh energy and a renewed sense of urgency. Hope is not an emotional response or an attitude of pie in the sky. Hope is not wishing that our society ills will disappear once a vaccine for COVID is discovered. But hope is for which all of our call, a call for us to dig deep into our soul, to tell the truth of what we see, feel, and experience. And it reminds us that we must always show up in the face of relentless evil, particularly in such times when it appears so normal and natural in our midst. Hope needs to be heard. Hope needs to be felt. And when words fail, hope is all we have. Hope will help us get through the rest of this year. Hope will help us face the challenges in the year to come. So the question that we all must live with at this moment is, where are we? Are we ready to rise up in spirit or in body to become the hope that our world is in much desperate need of today? Friends, I hope so. May this be so. Amen. Ashe.
It is a beautiful fall day. The camellia behind me is blooming, and I would get closer to it if it weren't loaded with bees hard at work in the fall. The leaves fall in big showers now, and everything is taking on that beautiful blue sky and offering contrast. In my backyard, it's a time of the yellowing of leaves and the falling of those leaves onto lawns. The acorns are pretty much done. Everything seems to be settling in for a good winter's sleep. Will you join me now in a time of reflection? As we face this time where increasingly we will be indoors, let's ask ourselves a few questions. As we go indoors, how do we connect with the natural world throughout this winter? The natural world reassures us and reminds us that we are creatures, just as those bees and camellia blossoms. That we are people who are part of a system of ecology that persists. And we can persist. What new games can your family play? What hobbies can be pursued? What friends can be reached? When was the last time you wrote a letter and sent it in the mail to a friend? That is the kind of thing that we all could engage in to reassure ourselves that we will move through these difficult days and we will emerge on the far side. Join me now in a time of reflection and settling, like the plants, preparing for a good winter, a renewing winter, a restoring winter, as Thanksgiving signals to us the time of the holidays and the upcoming winter time.
Spirit. come to me, come to me.
When I thought about this service, and we talked about lamentation, our lament, gratitude, and hope, I decided to write a lament, something that I've done with various groups before. And so it begins with an address to the divine. Who do you call? How do you call on the divine presence? So I call on all that is this universe, all that calls for beloved community, and all that unites. Why are we so separate? So separate in beliefs, in security, in hope? Why are we so separate in privilege, in income, in housing, in healthcare? And finally, why are we so separate because of this virus? We cannot travel, we cannot be with our friends, our loved ones, our children, our grandchildren. What will Thanksgiving be? How will we survive this separateness? But in that, I know that I'm not alone in these feelings. We here are companions to one another. We're somehow united in our joy and our grief. So where do we turn to find our unity, our shared humanity? Where do we turn to find how we are together? I found a poem that said, if someone in your family was trouble, 100 were not. The bad do not win, not finally, no matter how loud they are. We simply would not be here if that were so. You are made fundamentally from the good, and with this knowledge you never march alone. You are the breaking news of the centuries. You are the good who has come forward. This I have to believe, that we are the good. My deepest desire is unity, beloved community. And although I don't think we'll ever see it in our lifetime, will not find perfection or achieve this, I don't think we're supposed to. Because beloved community is a journey. And each step we take teaches us more about ourselves and enriches us and our community. Beloved community is a journey, not a destination. And I want us to do this together. I think in our experiences of our separateness, we are learning how to take this journey together. We are here in this virtual space, but real space, wanting to be together, lamenting our separations and supporting one another on our journey toward a community of diversity, inclusion, and love. When we do come back together, we will be different. We will be closer, more authentic. We've learned to see ourselves on the screen in Zoom. Zoom time. This has taught us the value of being in community. We will not take it for granted. Our unity will come from our separation, our separateness. We've had the time to think about what is really important to us. We've had the time to see it emerge in our families, in our children, in our friends, in our community. We've had time to really see what really is essential to our well-being in this world. When you look back at this time, what will you see? What are the gifts? What have you learned from this time? What gifts have been there? What surprised you? And what have we learned about being together in community? What have we learned about being together as a family? What have we learned about what's really important to us? And what have we seen in the ways that we've begun to support one another in new ways? I've experienced an authenticity in this community and in other communities that I'm part of that wasn't there before. That we've been moved to really think about what's real. And that's what I am grateful for in this time, of really realizing that beloved community is a journey, not a destination. It's one we take a step at a time, and that we're willing to do it, because that's where we want to be. And this community that's first you in Richmond, and this community that is these United States of America, and in this world community, we've seen ourselves take those steps. We've seen what we could do, what we can create. And I hope this is what will carry us from our separateness to our community. Amen. Blessed be. Happy Thanksgiving.
We've all heard that the closing down of our schools in time of COVID is an effect that will disproportionately affect the poorest children among us. We know that people who have hourly jobs to which they must show up to keep those jobs have a challenge in that having at-home children means there's not enough daycare, there's not enough assistance for children who are having their lessons online and need adult supervision and encouragement. In response to this very real situation, Faith Community Baptist Church in Richmond has established a program that will help to keep those young people moving along in their educational experience so they don't get left behind. And in fact, they just dreamed up this response to a problem they knew was existing. Kudos to them. As the housing locations on the northeast of Richmond have often continuously been their concern. Now, we can help. We can help two different ways. One is that we can participate in this month's offering for Share the Plate to help them in the program do what they need to do. That's very good. Very, very good. Two, they need volunteers, 2 hours at a time, masked up with children, to assist in the tutoring of children. Just helping them with the classroom lessons they're receiving. You don't need to be an expert in math. You don't need to know all of your grammar. You just need to know how to help young people sit, listen, do their work, stay focused. And that's what the work is. They need volunteers. They'd ideally like to have one volunteer for every child, but they aren't quite there yet all the time. But they're doing a marvelous thing. So we're going to help them financially to do things. We're going to help them have money for things like masks, because the kids arrive without them. Snacks and food, because the kids need that for their good energy and health. And we're doing this so that we're empowering Faith Community Baptist to use the funds as they see fit to support this project. I'm honored that they trust us, have invited us in to partner with them. Reverend Patricia Gould-Champ is someone that I have a lot of admiration for and am privileged to call a colleague. My sister, Dr. Gould-Champ, says, we decided to do this. We didn't know how we were going to do it, but we did it, and they are doing it. Can we be a part of it? I'm asking you maybe to share more deeply than you might, or you might know to, because this is in our community, something that we can do to assure that these young people move forward in time with all the resources that we can provide in our public schooling system and our community of care. The offering will now be taken. Look at one of those boxes and find out what you can do. And it will be gratefully received and put to the best kind of use, leaving no child behind. And that ain't a political statement, that's a fact. Your ministers decided that we would do these homilies of lament and gratitude and hope. I could think of 1,000 laments, but the biggest one that I have is that it's harder for me to know who among us in our community of First UU is having a hard time, that there's a struggle going on, or something bad has happened. I found out somebody had COVID long after they'd had it, hadn't known. I know people have experienced losses, and in COVID days they haven't really wanted, maybe, to have everyone in the church know that, or whatever, because it was too much. I found out that people had medical problems and had actually been in the hospital and out, and I didn't hear, as I might hear on a Sunday morning or some other. And I've had people reach out and talk to me about things, and I call them back to see how that's going, and I don't hear from them. So probably they're just fine, but yet I don't know how they're doing. So my lament is that as the senior minister in this church, and I think it's probably true for Reverend Sherman and Reverend Sue as well, as your ministers, we need to hear from you when things are challenging and difficult. I know you think we are so busy. And frankly, we are busy. But we want to be busy about the things that are important in your lives as well. It's true. Other things may fall away so that we can have a good conversation with you. I think my gratitude is for people who just adjust. My gosh, people do amazing things. Did you know there's a school in our building right now, led by volunteers? And Anne Marie McCartan is the person who's the chief instigator here, making sure that Abby's children have all the support they need as they are going through virtual education. I mean, how cool is that? Really? It's pretty darn cool. People make all kinds of adaptations to get food out to food banks, to make sure that groups are meeting, to check on individuals. And I'm so grateful. It's not possible for your ministers to check on everyone. The only way that happens is if people come forward, or those people who are in roles and groups reach out and across to help and let people know this is a place of love and care. And all that adaptation is just so amazing. I mean, people get on for the umpty-dumped Zoom call and try to find ways to greet and listen to one another. It's very humbling, very, very humbling. And it's hopeful, very hopeful. You may know that I'm on the Meadville Lombard Theological School board. That's the seminary that I and many others of our interns have attended. Walter, Pat, Christina Hockman, lots of our interns have gone there. I'm on the board, and we had several Zoom calls last week, hours of Zoom calls for our board meeting. And there was one board meeting that was kind of tough. We were dealing with a very elusive topic and how to grab it and how to deal with it. And some hurt feelings kind of emerged, and people were like pushing each other's buttons. And what was so beautiful is we got through it. And then the next day there were all kinds of emails and phone calls and everything else to shore up the connections that allow us to work together in respect and love. That happens so much right now in good places, and I'm proud of Meadville for being one of those places, not afraid to deal with difficult subjects, even virtually, and not afraid to put the systems behind it to hold it steady and true. I'm so grateful for all of you and all the people who do those things. It's really amazing. We should be very thankful this season for the skills that people bring to our virtual lives. And the last thing is, where do I find hope? Where do I find hope? Well, scientifically, I look forward to more pharmaceutical companies coming forward with vaccines because one ain't enough. And it will take a long time for us to be properly inoculated as a population. And what about the world? How does the world get inoculated? But I have hope in the energies and persistence of people, in our new president-elect, in our ability to figure out how we will do this so that the frontline workers will be safe, so that the children will be safe, so that those at risk will be safe, and the elders will be safe, and all in our turn. So I have hope in scientists and others working very hard to solve this problem, public health officials who will see to the distributions of vaccines, the healthcare workers who will provide them. I find their dedication is amazing. And we have nurses, health professionals, doctors in our congregation who are there doing this work. I am so grateful for you all, so grateful. Thank you for having this deep commitment to our health, so deep that you put yourselves at risk daily. And you deal with the stress and the strain and the loss of life with such a grace. Thank you, all you scientists and medical people, all you test givers and medical office runners, all you people. I find you a sign of hope beyond my ability to imagine. Thank you. And may we all give thanksgiving for those fine folks. They are living hope.
As we come around to take our places at the table, a moment to remember and reflect upon our wealth.
Here's to loving friends and family. Here's to being able to gather here together in good company and health.
May we be released from all those feelings that would harm us. May we have the will to give them up and get them gone.
For heavy are the satchels full of anger and false promise. May we have the strength to put them down.
And may the light of love be shining deep within spirit. May the torch of mercy clear the path and show the way. May the horn of plenty sound so everyone can hear it. May the light of love be with you every day. And may we wish the best for everyone that we encounter. May we swallow pride and may we do away with fear.
For it's only what we do not know that we have grown afraid of, and only what we do not choose to hear.
And may the light of love be shining deep within your spirit. May the torch of mercy clear the path and show the way. May the horn of plenty sound so everyone can hear it. May the light of love be with you every day. And as we bless our daily bread and drink our day's libation, may we be reminded of the lost and wayward soul,
the hungry and the homeless that we have in every nation. May we fill each empty cup and bowl.
May nothing ever come between or threaten to divide us. May we never take for granted all the gifts that we receive, being ever mindful of the unseen hands that guide us and the miracles that cause us to believe. And may the light of love be shining deep within your spirit. May the torch of mercy clear the path and show the way. May the horn of plenty sound so everyone can hear it. May the light of love be with you. May the light of love be with you. May the light of love be with you every day.
Let us extinguish our chalice to these words. We can make a house called tomorrow. What we bring finally into the new day every day is ourselves. And that's all we need to start. That's everything we require to keep going. Let us extinguish our chalice.
Here is a Thanksgiving blessing for us all. Thanksgiving always seems to be the litmus test on how we get along with family. And this year we may not be gathering with family at all. Or maybe we're being creative and having an outside Thanksgiving dinner. Or maybe we're just doing it virtually. Whatever it is that we're doing, let's believe that love is the way to engage people. Let's set aside political judgments, historical differences of temperament, history. Let's set it aside and see a new moment before us. Let's breathe deeply and be the most relaxed person on that Zoom call. Let's trust that we have much for which we should be thankful. And to know that is to remain calm, to take measure of all we've been given. I charge us to go out there and just be so calm and so loving, because that is who we are in this community. And may it be so outside. Have a fabulous week.
living, we sing a hymn of praise to the life that we bear. We gather together to join in the journey, confirming, committing our passage to be a true affirmation in joy and tribulation, when bound to human care